In this video, I'm going to do a direct cable comparison against Vanquish's new VRD and Axial's SCX10 Pro. This is a direct table comparison, pros and cons of both. Let's go. There's a lot to cover, but the obvious difference is portal and straight. The straight axle design of the Pro. Now, granted, this is an aftermarket Vidavon axle housing, but the overall design is still there, so we're just going to go with this. The straight axle by design offers a lower center of gravity just because everything is down here and at the bottom of it. Now on the Pro, you got the servo mounted right here behind the axle. It's nice and low, so that also helps out with a low center of gravity. They're also less complex than what the Portal is. There's less moving parts and stuff, so they're a simpler design. Now, these, by the Ring opinion, have a 3.75 to 1 ratio. You can over and underdrive these with different ring gears and pinions and all that stuff, but in stock form, 3.75 is it. The VRD comes with the new F10 axle housing. Let's get into this. The servo in stock form is up at the very top, so this kind of hurts the center of gravity by having the servo up top. However, they do have a kit that's going to put the servo down at the bottom. It'll line up down here. It also comes with a different transmission adapter, motor assembly, and stuff like that to make all that fit. Now, the biggest downfall when it comes to the portals isn't so much the complexity. They've got all that, the portal gears and all figured out where they are super tough. You very rarely have an issue with them. The biggest downfall to the portals is this right here. This right here can and will hang you up. Okay, you will hit this. Now on the Vanquish, not only are they built with angles, as you can see, these have been up against the rocks. They also gain clearance over like the TRX4 portals because this, the bottom piece comes into the knuckle. Okay, it's not down at the bottom like the TRX4 axles. Although these right here can and will hit rocks, they can actually get up there and your tire, you'll have to turn them to make the tire touch. You gain a lot of clearance right through here, and that's a pretty big benefit. Remember when I mentioned the 3.75 to 1 ratio on the straight axle? Well, this right here on the VRD is a 5.25 to 1 on the front and a 6.25 on the rear. So the VRD gets overdrive or faster and slower like that, plus there's some in the transmission for an overall 37% differential overdrive, underdrive, depending on how you talk about it. As far as the Pro goes, it's selectable. Okay, so you can go 1-to-1 like for trail usage. You know, you don't really want all your competition overdrive, or with the little shifter down here, you can shift it from 0 or 1-to-1 into 40% underdrive. When it comes to strict competition, the vast majority of everybody just simply locks this into the 40% underdrive. And by the underdrive on this particular model, it doesn't change the front ratio, it just drops the rear. So, or slows the rear, okay? Higher ratio numerically, and it does it in the transmission. So this is how this right here works. So you can select this one. Let's talk torque twist. The Pro torque twist this way, and the VRD torque twist this way. Okay, now properly, if you've ever been in a truck and you romp the gas, which side comes up? Driver's side. So scale wise, the Pro is better, is more correct on the scale side of the torque twist. The ratios also affect the torque twist. 3.75. Here you have a 6.25. We're just going to round the numbers here to talk about the torque twist real quick. We'll go 3.5 and 7. Nice, simple, easy rounding because this says 1 and this says 2. As in 1 pinion rotation per tire rotation, 2 pinion rotations for tire rotation. All right, so just simple, easy math right here. So if it takes 1 pound-foot of torque on the drive shaft to drive this truck forward, it'll take half a pound of torque on the drive shaft to drive this one forward. Therefore, the torque on the drive shaft, you'll have 1 pound of torque twist pulling it this way, as where this one will only have half a pound of torque twist pulling it this way. So the lower the axle ratio, the lower the torque twist, and that's just simple mechanics, leverages, and all that wonderful stuff. The transmission of the Pro is kind of complex with the selectable underdrive. So I mean, you have the front motor up here, everything driving back to it. And so it is more complex than what the VRD has because it's just simply all built in, done, and over with. The VRD transmission may look complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. Your motor way down in the chassis for low center of gravity, spur gear, your input shaft right here, top gear, counter gear, and then right in here is where you get your low speed here, high speed there. That's how you complete the 37% underdrive, overdrive. Now, on the VRD, you can change your axle ratios front and back. You can actually overdrive the front with your ring and pinion. You can underdrive the rear with the ring and pinion and get more than 37%. Not exactly sure how much exactly, maybe 40 or 50%, which may sound like a lot, but if you're in a really tight competition, really tight gates, a lot of quick turning and this and that, that can actually be a huge benefit for you. And you can do the same thing with the Pro. Front overdrive, rear underdrive. However, you can actually do one or the other, and using that transmission, you can reduce it for when you're getting around from gate to gate and engage it when you're getting into the gates, so long as the organizers of your competition allow you to actually shift that. When you build the Pro, you have the option. You can put steering servo in the chassis or on the axle. That is your option, okay? Also, they have a spot for your winch to go right here, so it all can fit into the chassis, so you get all the necessary points and stuff like that. On the VRD, you don't get that option. It's just right here, and there's no provision yet to put a winch on here. It's possible you could do a winch on the backside and then tube route the line through to the front. You could totally do that. And just like I mentioned earlier, they have a kit coming out, and I'm going to put the actual Vanquish kit on here that will set the servo into here. And I believe all of this is going to come back, which will require like a short outrunner style motor, which I'm fully prepared to swap out the Pro for that. But yeah, that will actually get this servo down low, which will actually help the center of gravity. Lower the center of gravity, that is. The skid on the VRD is quite a bit higher, almost twice as high as the Pro. The Pro pretty much sits on this, and that's a pretty big difference, and I'll explain the pros and cons of this. The lower skid generally gives a much lower center of gravity than the higher skid because the transmission is just simply all lower. Now, when you look at the transmission that's in the Pro versus the transmission that's in the VRD, they're a very big difference. However, there's one thing I really want you guys to see. As measured right here, the top of the motor is pretty much 70 millimeters up. And that's, suspension compressed and up to where it's going to sit. So pretty much 70 millimeters to the top of the motor on the Portal Axial VRD. On the Pro, as best I can tell on that one, is 71 millimeters. So even though the skid on the VRD is taller, the motor is pretty much the same height. Looking at it like this, tire softness, all that can vary, all that by measurement. So I just simply measured directly from the axles. So that's actually really interesting. Now the transmission is obviously lower in this one by design, but I mean, heck, the motor in the VRD, even with the higher chassis and all that, is actually the same, or pretty much just the same. I mean, look at the difference in chassis height, but the motor height is the same. And the motor is a major source of weight. So that's a really good thing as far as getting the center of gravity of the VRD down. With the skids being drastically different height, okay, there's a pro and con. The Pro would be inherently a better center of gravity, but I'm really impressed with the Vanquish on how good the center of gravity it is, and I believe that has something to do with that motor that I just discussed. However, like with the Pro, this is where droop comes in. You hit that skid, you got your axles have to droop down to make contact. If the axles or tires aren't, if the tires aren't making contact, you're not doing a whole lot except maybe shaking it. So when the skid hits, it could actually cause you to slide the wrong direction. Now, with the VRD over here, when the skid hits, you have a lot more axle drop. So when you're on the skid on this one, you have more pressure on the tires. So that can be a major benefit at different times on different obstacles, especially things that like the high center. If you've noticed in this video, I actually have a carbon chassis on the Pro. I just put this on. I have not driven this chassis on this truck yet. It's a direct carbon copy of the stock one, which I really like the geometries of the stock chassis. Really happy with that one. I've not driven it yet. Any weight above here is generally considered bad when you're talking competition. So this reduces it by almost 4 ounces at the chassis. That's a good thing, but that's for another video. As far as the shocks go, the Vanquish is pretty much standard, kind of old school at this point in time, coilover shock, which works pretty darn good. There's a reason they're still around. The Pro actually has like the, for lack of a better term, a DriveTech style shock with like a mini T spring mod that you would do like the TRX4 shocks and stuff like that. So that's on here. And I've got to be honest with you, both shocks work extremely well. These right here, nice, simple. There's less chance on the front to, like say you're turning sharp, there's less chance to actually catch something on here. So, and it's a smaller diameter up there as well, as where these right here, being larger diameter, there's more of a chance of you actually getting into that spring. Typically speaking, it doesn't really bother anything when you do rub it. However, if you do rub it the wrong direction, you could actually adjust the spring collar on this one backwards. And if you go too far, you'll end up with that. So that's one thing, but honestly, I have not had that happen at all. And I've got the servo turned up pretty darn good on this thing. And I've not had that happen at all. As far as the sliders go, they pretty much have a very similar design as far as like bringing the slider up high. And this is the Pro. Pretty much the same thing. Both of these kits come in at roughly $430. As you're building one of these things, you can't go wrong with either one. Both of these are absolute top shelf competition trucks out of the box. Now, can they be tailored to what you do on your competition? Absolutely. That's the beauty of crawlers, man. You can tailor this thing to work any way you want. I mean, heck, I've done axle housings and all that. I'm going to do the metal axle housings on this one. All that is going to be done. So, I mean, that's the beauty of crawlers. You can tailor these things to where you want them. Drive shafts, links, all that stuff. And that's one of the nice things about crawlers. You can still scratch build these things if you want to. And they're not like a racer. You buy it, put it together, and then you bolt stuff on it, right? If you happen to be wondering about these are body mounts by Fine Laser Designs. These are specific to the Pro, and they work really good. No more body clips or any of that stuff. I'm kind of expecting to see something like that for the VRD as well. Now, just for reference, this is the Pro without the body, without the tires, without the battery, without all that. 66 front, 34 rear, 5149 side to side. The VRD comes in at 63 front, 37 rear, and 50-50 side to side. You know, sometimes when I go in to do a video like this, I wonder if I'm even qualified enough to talk about this. You know, I mean, there are things like suspension geometries I didn't really talk into. There are other aspects of these that I didn't speak because I just want to look at the main differences between the two vehicles and try to compare them and look at the pros and cons and all that. But I kind of wonder, am I even qualified to talk about this? But I'm looking at the video, the edit and all that. I'm like, dude, I'm actually I'm not that bad. But regardless of all this, I've got to tell you, both of these trucks are top shelf trucks. They absolutely are. And like I mentioned, you can build this right here with different shocks that have all kinds of droop to make up for the skid being really low. But if you're really going to be down low on the side hilling, that's a benefit. The Vanquish here, even in stock form, it went up crowley and it was very stable when it did that. So the motor height, all that plays a part. And I'm going to tell you, both trucks are very well engineered. Both trucks run absolutely great. Both trucks are versatile, as in the gearing and all that. You can change and adjust different power plants and all that. So there's no real loser in this competition. Both of these trucks are top shelf winners. However, if you choose the Portal, get this right here. If your thing is straight axles, go with that right there. It depends on your preference. But both of these trucks are absolute awesome. And if I was to go to a competition right now, I would have to look at the course and make my mind up as to which one I would take, because they're both right there. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Maybe I was half smart enough to teach you a few things or explain a few things, as I was trying my best to do that. But guys, I hope you have a wonderful, great day. I'll link up both of these down below. Use those links. They are affiliate links. AMain, eBay, Amazon, Horizon. It helps out the channel so much when you guys do. So guys, I want you to have a great day. I'm going to finish this up. And if you happen to have the urge to get like an extra cheeseburger at lunchtime or dinner, just do it. You're only living one time. Have a great one. Guys, you made it to the end. This is awesome. Thank you so much. You guys making it to the end of the video means so much to me. I mean, for real. Consider joining, becoming a member for just $2 a month. That's the cheapest way to go. In the description are affiliate links, AMain, eBay, Amazon. You guys know all the stuff on that. But yeah, guys, it means a lot that you're here and you're listening to this right now. And I want you to have a great day.